Every test produces a calculated value, sometimes also called the observed value. To decide if that value shows a real effect or just random chance, you compare it to a critical value taken from a statistical table. You'll be given all the information you need in the exam. You won't need to calculate anything except the sign test covered in the next lesson. A one-tailed test comes from a directional hypothesis where we predict a specific outcome. For example, drinking coffee makes you more alert. A two-tailed test comes from a non-directional hypothesis where we only say drinking coffee affects alertness without predicting how. So the tail refers to whether the researcher is testing one specific direction or both possible directions. Use the hypothefish reference as a memory aid. The p-value tells us the probability that our result occurred by chance. In psychology, we usually use a significance level of p equals to or smaller than 0.05, which means we're 95% confident our result is genuine and accept a 5% risk that it's due to chance. So when you see p equals to or smaller than 0.05, it literally means there's less than a 1 in 20 probability that this result happened by chance. Now that we know our test is one-tailed, given that it literally states a directional hypothesis, the p-value is smaller than or equals to 0.05, and the degrees of freedom is 9, we can look up the critical value for this t-test from the critical values table provided. In this case, the critical value is 1.833. For the t-test, the calculated value must be equal to or greater than the critical value. However, our calculated value of 1.4377 is smaller than the critical value of 1.833. Therefore, the result is not significant. This means we have to accept the null hypothesis. There's not enough evidence to say there's a real effect. So let's use our example to see what this looks like in practice. For a one-tailed test, where p equals to or smaller than 0.05 and the degrees of freedom is 9, the calculated value, 1.4377, is less than the critical value, 1.833. So the result is not significant.